Welcome, everybody, to the Straight Shoot Wrestling Podcast. Guys, it is your boy, Mr. Tesh. And listen, my childhood has come back around, and we do not have Santi today, but I think we got a pretty damn good replacement. Big Vito, what is going on, my dude? Welcome to the podcast.
I can't believe I'm here. I'm just as happy as you are, reliving your childhood, you living your dream. That's what it's all about. Positive vibes, positive views. I heard a lot of great things about this show. I know it's worth millions and millions of people around the world. And we're going to get it live right now. My dude, go ahead. Give it to me. What do you got for me? How are you going to handle this? I know you got a lot on your plate. I know you're excited. Please don't mess up, all right? Don't be that fanboy who gets all tongue-tied and you got to call your mom.
Nah, it's all good. If you let me call my mom at the end of this, she'll enjoy it. But listen, first off, Vito, how you doing, man? Like, what's going on in your life right now? What's going on? I see you all over social media pushing the Big Vito brand. Tell me about what's going on.
Well, I'm just living a positive lifestyle, just doing my thing, taking care of Miss Noel. Living the Florida life, doing sports, living by the pool, tanning, happy hour, doing my 9 to 5, coming here, podcasting, getting the Big Vito brand out there, being live on TikTok. You know what? TikTok is a great thing because all those fans, I have about 12,000, and after this show, I'm going to have about 15,000 people loving Big Vito LaGrasso. They love all my stuff. They always say, Vito, you're the only guy who participates like, no other person on TikTok. You're the only celebrity who gets on and actually talks to the people, answer their hopes and dreams, get involved with them. And that's what it's about, being positive in life, spreading good wealth. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about.
Listen, man, I will attest to that. You have been one of those ones when it comes to the social media game, TikTok, coming on the podcast, really just getting your name out there through the creators, which I don't think a lot of professionals and celebrities realize how important these platforms are to build their brand, after the gig is up, and be there and be aware of what's trending and what's new. And you and Noel have taken this to a whole new respectable level because you're so involved. Like, I've got people that are currently live on TikTok right now asking, like, what's going on? We know he's on the Straight Shoot podcast. They've got sent questions in, and they're excited to talk to you as well. And I think this is a good stepping stone for any other podcasters that are coming up saying, hey, like, if these guys can do it in a short 6 months and get guys like Vito on here, it's easy work. It's not easy work. It's hard work at the end of the day. But what I'm saying is what you have done you've opened the road for others to come and do it as well.
Well, you know what it is? My thing is that I would like to entertain the fans here, but also get a chance to get bookings, do some movies, do advertising, do commercials, do other things, so I could earn a living here, doing these TikToks and doing this stuff. My presence is very well known. A lot of people like my upbeat style. They have a great time on the podcast. They like watching the shows. I did a game show yesterday on the sit down, which was good. And I said, we had our panel, and I said, this is your WWE. And I use what is going on in wrestling, and I let these guys do their narrative. So I'm going to get you through some things here. This is going to be your WWE, okay? Here it goes. Who is your favorite diva of all time?
Favorite diva of all time?
Yeah.
Listen,
who's your favorite female wrestler?
My favorite female wrestler of all time is actually Trish Stratus. But before I finish that sentence, I have such a soft spot for Tori Wilson because I used to work backstage events at my arena here in Ontario. And that woman was so nice. She gave me a lovely little kiss on the cheek because I got her ice cold water. I'll never forget that. So she's got a very close spot in my heart.
All right. So here we go. Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
Okay. You own the WWE. You have a one-night stand. You're a married man. Do you have a one-night stand, or do you keep it an affair?
Whoa. So, listen, I'm a married man. I've never been one for the...
This is fantasy.
There's no fantasy. It's if I'm locked down, I'm locked down. That's who I am, and that's who I am as a person. So you know what, Trish, I appreciate it, and I love you. I saw you in Toronto, but or in Kitchener when you were here a couple of months ago. But sorry, I would definitely say no.
All right, you're the CEO and chairman of the board. Who will be your women's champion?
Currently,
any women's champion.
Any women's champion, I would have Bianca drop it to Alexa.
All right, so Alexa Bliss is your champion.
Yep.
You're working late nights. Alexa and you are grinding. You're there trying to put the product up. Alexa decides to give you an intimate kiss. What do?
Oh, God, pray I got an NDA and I can pay out $3 million.
All right. So you pray, you pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was so much fun yesterday. I got to tell you, it was hilarious because the guys are sitting there and they're going through this. But this is today's wrestling. So you have your kiss leads to something else. Then 6 weeks later, she says, at WrestleMania, I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant. What do?
Pray that NDA is sealed tight.
Okay, so you pay because you play, right?
Yeah.
So now, with this happening, it's sitting tight, you're on the QT, you're having a child with your champion, okay? Do you use it as a storyline on Raw?
Hey, listen, if I had the mentality like the current booking does, absolutely.
Okay, so you have the storyline, okay? She runs into a problem. She's having a hard time with the pregnancy. Do you move her into your house and tell your wife that you're having this child with so-and-so?
No, that's why I've got that foolproof NDA. Right. Simple as that.
Right. You're on your own, kid. See ya. Here's $3 million. I'll talk to you later. Hit me up on the down low. I'll throw you some crib money, some baby formula and shit like that, right? This thing went on. These guys were laughing, dying, right? So at the end of the show, these guys go, hey, Vito, nobody picked you to be champion in their Fed. I said, nobody picked Miss Noel either to be their secret diva, which was fine. I said, Vito, what about you? Who are you going to pick? I said, hey, it's my show. I can't answer any questions.
Hey, man, that's awesome. I love it.
That's having a good time and not burying nobody and just entertaining the people, because everybody sat there like in the live chat. They're going like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is great. This was like Hollywood Squares. You know what I mean? This is like, This is your life.
Yeah.
But that's today's business and that's today's wrestling. What's going on?
So let's get into today's business and today's wrestling, because there's some dynamics of this kind of wrestling that we're seeing in sports entertainment, both AEW and WWE, that is really kind of bringing the resurgence of your era. And like, I grew up, 90s Attitude Era. I grew up ECW. I grew up WCW. I was running up and down the stairs, flipping between channels during the Monday Night Wars. And what do you see currently in the current product, both AEW or WWE, and even some of the independents like Ring of Honor and Impact, that they're really doing a good thing to kind of keep your era alive? Because a lot of people are really shitting on the current product, saying it'll never be what it was. But then there's a lot of other people saying, well, it's a different time now, right?
From when I was wrestling and involved in the Nitro Wars, ECW, WCW, TNA, the WWE, back in the WWF, everybody forgets I started in the WWF in 91, right? There are no bigger than life characters when you walk somewhere. If you saw me walking in the street, you said, that guy is somebody. Even today, people say, I know you. Mm-hmm. When you look at today's wrestler, a lot of them are average sized guys. You couldn't say, I know him. They're not bigger than life. That's what we're fighting. That's the first thing we're fighting, right? So, for the Brock Lesnar's, the Roman Reigns, the Randy Ortons, Edge, I'll use those guys. You could tell, okay, they are somebody. When you flip to AEW, right? I know Chris Jericho. I know Billy Gunn. Mark Henry, Paul White. You might know Wardlow if you follow the product.
Yep.
Taz, you know, if you follow the product, you know who he is, but he's an announcer. Majority of the guys are not bigger than life, and they don't have that platform in AEW. It's like WWE, and then here is the AEW. When former WWE stars come to the AEW, it is not the grand entrance. Everybody made a big thing about CM Punk coming back and his thing, right? But what Triple H said was right when they were going through that era there with him and Triple H. The only reason you're here, if you don't have a place like the WWE to drop your pipe bombs, nobody's going to listen. So you need the WWE platform. When you look at him today, he doesn't carry that same star power that he had in the WWE.
Agreed.
And it's drop off. Daniel Bryan, the same thing. And everybody has leveled down instead of leveled up.
Mm-hmm.
The guys who they have on their show, this is nothing against them, but they never had that time in the WWE to make them that bigger than life star. Let's talk about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, right? He didn't like this gimmick. He didn't like that gimmick. He didn't like the other gimmick. He was Dusty Rhodes' son. WWE gave him 5 or 6 different gimmicks to get over. Couldn't get over worth the shit.
Mm-hmm.
He goes over to the independents, makes a name for himself. Gets in AEW, puts himself in a position where he's the top guy. Puts himself over, or tries to. Something happens with creative, where he doesn't have he doesn't have creative control.
Mm-hmm.
He's pushing himself to get over, but he's not getting over, and he's the boss.
Yeah.
He's dying. That's it. Okay, I can't make it here. I'm going to go back to the WWE. The thing that irritates me is he went back there when he first said, I'm going to make it on my own. I'm going to do everything on my own. I am Cody Rhodes. I am not Stardust. I am not Dustin Rhodes' brother. I am not the American Dream's son.
Yep.
And what is he saying in his promos? I'm here to win the title for my father.
Yep.
You're still using the American Dream.
Yep.
So you can't get over by yourself. You're locked in. I don't think he's going to be a major player or world champion in the WWE.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree with virtually everything you said there, because Santi and I have talked about this at length, especially about his first promo, about coming out, how he's going to win the title for his dad, because of the picture that used to sit there. And we sat there and we're like, okay, man, like, I thought you were coming back to be Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare.
Right.
Okay? My thing is, though, with Cody, and what you said about Punk is right, especially through his back and forth with Triple H. And I think that's humbled Punk going to AEW, because he hasn't really had the reaction since his debut. And his world title run was a little, okay?
Flat.
He got, flat, and he got injured, and they're still trying to do this interim thing. Moxley said it best on AEW the other night. The whole interim world title thing. Moxley's a 2-time world champion in AEW. He's the only champion in AEW right now. Stop trying to say this is some interim bullshit. But back to Cody. Do you believe that Cody desperately needed to prove himself at Hell in a Cell with that injury? Do you believe that now people are going to see a different side of Cody because of the balls it took to do what he did?
Didn't he just go from the top of the cage? Right? So he went from the top of the cage, he did this moonsault, injured his toe. He didn't prove anything. He had Arn Anderson with him in his corner. It didn't prove anything, right? No matter what he tried, he couldn't get over as the man in that place. Who was the most established star in there? Chris Jericho. Jericho didn't have to force it. He was forcing it. Even with all the stuff that he was doing, you can't force yourself down people's throat.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the end of the day, you're a kid with black trunks, black hair, and if it wasn't for your dad, you wouldn't be in wrestling.
Fair enough.
Let's call a spade here, right? Now you look at Taz's son, right? Hook. He's got that James Dean look, cool wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people criticizing that they were making him a wrecking machine, but here's Wardlow taking bumps and all these guys taking bumps. But here's this guy being a wrecking machine and he's Taz's son. Different type of booking, but
yeah,
it is what it is. You look at Keith Lee. That guy couldn't get over in that guy. Well, let me tell you something. He irritates me because he had the training facility. He had nutritionists. He had classes. He had everything, right? Just because you can jump at 300 plus pounds and do a moonsault over the top rope doesn't make you a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you walk down there and you try to have swag doesn't make you right. If you can't wrestle, that's fine. You're bigger than everybody else, granted. But when you came to AEW, you should have been in prime shape. You weren't. After the first day you were there, after that big bump, that big deal, what have you done? Nothing.
Now,
right?
is that attitude or is that booking?
Attitude.
Okay.
He does not have heart. He thinks it's owed to him. I would have fired him the day after he debuted. I don't like, he has this, I'm owed this, and I deserve this. Hey, bro, you have a chance to be something great. Get your body in shape. Be in better shape. When he came back from his honeymoon and everything, when he got married, he looked like he put on 50 extra pounds.
He did look bigger when he debuted in AEW. He did look a lot bigger. I do agree with that, yeah.
Right? And then when Powerhouse Hobbs gave him that spine buster, I was like, that's it. That's his push out the window. You just had somebody like Powerhouse Hobbs, who hasn't had the exposure like him, but he's throwing around Keith Lee, the biggest acquisition, like a sack of shit.
Yep. So
I look at that and I'm like, all right, not good.
So you've mentioned a number of very recent talent, i.e. Keith Lee, Hook, Hobbs. We can even let's throw Sammy Guevara in there. Let's toss in, I don't want to go straight AEW. Let's throw in Sami Zayn. I'm not just trying to pick like mid-card guys. I'm trying to pick guys that have reference and ability to tell a story, which that's the one thing we're talking about in pro wrestling. Doesn't matter if it's sports entertainment or pro wrestling, we're still telling a story in the ring, correct?
Right.
So those are the names that I'm going to throw out. We'll throw out Sami Zayn and let's throw out Gunther Walter, who I think is probably a big future in WWE if he keeps going the way he's going right now. So from the characters that I have just mentioned, would they have made it in your era, either WCW or WWF, the 90s? No. Would they have made it, and why not? Why or why not?
These guys would be lucky if they got enhancement talent jobs. You look at Skull Von Crush. I had a character and gimmick. I went in there as the German. I looked different. I had a character. They used it. I was doing full matches in my first year. The development of the wrestler is not there for you to gain the exposure. You don't have that learning curve like I did. Here's my first year. I already did a WCW TV. I wrestled beautiful Bobby Eaton. I got called with the Alabama Jam. I come over and do the WWF TV. Okay. I got Bret Hart teaching me, the British Bulldog. I have the Big Boss Man. I have the Undertaker. I have Tatanka. I have High Energy. And all the guys in the dressing room, who you brought in, who broke you in, kid? Johnny Rods, come sit right here. It's not that style no more.
Okay.
Every wrestler today is entitled. When you were broken in, you always protected each other. How many people got hurt during the ECW time? Nobody. We all took care of each other, right? Mm-hmm. I was doing hardcore in WCW. How many guys got injured and were on the injured list? Nobody. How many people got hardware there? Nobody. When you look at the guys like, take Sammy Guevara and Jeff Hardy, okay? When Sammy Guevara threw that chair at him and busted his head open, and then they do these stupid bumps and not protecting each other. That's not wrestling. You're careless. You're sloppy. Sammy Guevara, I think he's a phenomenal athlete and a good wrestler. He does do some stupid bumps and unnecessary risks, and he does do something out of the box, but that's from inexperience. I like the way he could do some great things. I said, man, if I was wrestling him, oh boy, I would do that, right? You got a guy like Miro sitting there. That's my guy I would love to have a program with, right? He's sitting on a freaking sideline. You ain't using him. He's championship material.
Yep.
He's big. You know when he walks in a room, you know he's there.
Yep.
Right? That's the difference between all these. Now, Sami Zayn, I was never a fan of, right? He does all these controversial things. He uses more of his mouth. When he came up and he had his match with John Cena, he had this big thing, separated his shoulder, made through. He's been serviceable, okay? You take a guy like The Miz when I was there, who worked his way up from being used and abused and made fun of to be world champion, and I think he's sitting on top of the world. And he's a very good worker. Guys don't learn how to be workers today. They're not workers. They're just wrestlers. There's a difference. You can go out there, yeah, I'm a wrestler. I had 2 lessons and everybody's a wrestler. Yeah. But being a worker, nobody is a seasoned worker because they're not territories to learn in, and there's no place to learn.
Now,
go ahead.
Sorry. Now, is that a lasting effect because of Vince buying everything up and just not having the territories available, or is that something else?
We got to remember, in the 90s, that was the last of the territories. I went to the last of the territories to learn how to wrestle because they weren't producing. There was no money in them anymore. People closing up. You had to go through USWA to make it to the WWE. The power plant, when it was there, when I was coming up, I went from WCW TV, WWF TV. I went to Japan to get my Ribera jacket, which was important. You go to rehearsal for Carlos. You come back. Santo Domingo for Jack Veneno. WCW there. You come back. USWA, Jerry Lawler. You come back. You go back to Carlos Colon, WWC. You go to All Japan Pro Wrestling. You come back. You go to ECW. You get an offer. WCW, right? Then you go to the XWF, which was another place that closed down and had all the greats. Okay? I went back overseas. I went to TNA. I went back to Germany. I went back to Japan. Then I finally got to go to the WWE. But you look at the body of work that I did to get to these places.
Yeah.
They don't have that today. And if you take a lot of those guys who were on the AEW squad and AEW on all the shows, Vince McMahon would never put those guys on TV, and he would never put those matches on TV with these guys who were on these TV shows, right? Now, you take when I was on those kind of TV shows like Superstars, I can't remember the other shows, the names back then, but I'll use Superstars, right?
Yep.
I was doing live matches at the Manhattan Center with Tatanka. I was doing them with Typhoon, and they were putting them on live. If they didn't think I could do a live match and have offense, they would put me on. And what did WWE known for? They used to chop and cut out the bad spots. The AEW doesn't do that, and they expose the business. And the thing that drives me crazy is they have all the minds back there in AEW, and they don't go back to Wrestling 101, which drives me absolutely crazy because those kids can benefit from listening to the veterans. And from what I understand is they don't want to hear it. You're the old style. This is the new style, and this is what's going to make it. Let me tell you something. If I had to go to that roster and I had to look at guys and talent, we would have enough for one show.
So, am I getting a hint that you're not a fan of the AEW product?
for what you see, the sloppiness out there. No, I like to watch the guys who I bring back Chris Jericho, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have to be world champion, but they needed a world champion to get the company over. He did that. He took 4 other guys with him, got them over. Went about his way, did his programs with everybody, right? So everybody he was in a program with, he got over. He took another 4 guys, and now he's getting those guys over.
Yeah.
Okay? So he's helped building the product and teaching these guys how to go.
Yeah.
John Moxley came over established. He was an established star, and they needed another guy with name value. When AEW first started, who were the name guys on there that had TV exposure, major exposure? Chris Jericho, John Moxley.
Yeah.
Right? Eventually, they brought Sting. Sting sits, isn't a prominent figure. They got probably the best athlete there in Billy Gunn, and he's doing something with his sons. Billy Gunn should be world champion in that place. Yeah, and there's nobody bigger than Billy Gunn in there.
He's massive, dude.
When I saw Darby Allin do some flop drop on Billy Gunn and Billy Gunn put him over, I got so aggravated. Because back in the day, the most unbelievable thing for a guy who never had a body was the 1, 2, 3 kid beating Razor Ramon on a surprise. That was the extent of your surprises.
Still remember watching that match live. I still remember watching that match.
I was backstage that night. I was in the arena at the Manhattan Center.
Yep.
When it happened.
Yep.
And you're like, that's wrestling. That's what wrestling is about. Razor Ramon, bigger than life. The Undertaker, the Typhoon, right? You had Doink. You knew who the characters were.
Yeah.
Another thing they don't do, right? Nobody has a set comeback, and something that was drilled in my head. Every babyface has 4 moves in a comeback. The people will know when your comeback is. How many guys have a set comeback and they start their comeback with a neck breaker? How do you get up from a neck breaker? How do you get up from a DDT? Okay, I'm hot, bang, boom, boom. Guy just took a DDT. You expect him to bump for you?
Wasn't there a running joke that the DDTs become like just the most average move next to the super kick?
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous.
The super kick used to be a finish, right?
Yeah.
When I used to do the mafia kick in WCW, right, and I used to do my karate thing after that and stand there for the people and pause, I let the guy sell.
Yeah. So with that, when it comes to the backstage, because I remember when I worked backstage events, I used to work house shows, like I mentioned earlier, in my hometown, and I was just doing the catering. But obviously, the caterers do get involved, chatting with all the guys in the backstage, the guys that are friendly enough to acknowledge you. And like the people that I can shout out for one is Eddie, Ray, Cena, Paul White. Like, those guys were approachable. They came to you. But one thing I've always wanted to know, does everybody on the roster know how it's going to play out every night, especially on the live shows? Or is it just the guys in the matches and then the rest of the results are like, I don't want you to break kayfabe just for this podcast, but I'm asking just out of pure curiosity. Cena and Taker go on. You're sitting backstage and you're watching on the monitor in the back. Do you know what's about to happen?
I'm watching like you are. When everybody wants to know if everything is scripted, not everything is scripted, right? And the guys who are wrestling in the back, everybody just worries about their match and their angle. Mm-hmm. So how can you worry about the Undertaker and Cena, what's happening there? But as you're trying to make it to that level and be up there. So with today's product in Raw, how many times do you hear, oh, things were torn up, we got to rewrite this, rewrite that, rewrite the other thing? WCW with Vince Russo and the trailer and going over there, how many times did they have to have a summit at the meeting because Steiner was upset and Goldberg was upset and Nash was upset and Ric Flair was upset, Roddy Piper was upset, the Macho Man was upset, Sting was upset, this one was upset, the other one was upset.
So does any of that fall on Russo?
how can it fall on Russo? It was just the culture of the business.
Okay.
The one thing I could say about Vince McMahon and his ship, there's one boss.
Yeah.
You either do it his way or get out.
Yeah.
You don't like it, get out. Times have changed where people have walked out because they have balls. Back in the day, you would never think. You would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Changing of the guard, changing of the time. Social media has killed kayfabe. You can't kayfabe things.
No, and I agree with that. That's the one thing that I miss from the 90s is like you had to find the dirt sheets, if anything. You found the magazines from the week before on your newsstands, that kind of thing. That's where we got kind of all our knowledge. And I miss like the surprise pop. Like I don't even remember the last time there was Edge's return at Rumble, maybe.
Let me ask you a quick. Let me tell you something real quick, right?
Yeah.
You guys know Bill Apter and George Napolitano, right?
Yes.
Okay, you know them. Do you know how big it was to get in their magazines and have your picture in anything they did? Because that was your social media.
Mm-hmm.
If you got in their magazines, that's how you got out there, through the magazines. If I pulled out, I have a duffel bag, a blue duffel bag. It's got magazines that like you've never seen before. Then I'm in there. I'm on one side, The Rock is on the inside. I'm on this side, Triple H is on this side. Eddie Guerrero, Big Vito, right? The Mamalukes, DX.
Damn.
You talk about stuff like my wife goes through that sometimes. Oh my God, you're with this one and you're this. And people forget that I was up there and I was one of those guys because of those magazines and because of the work I put in.
No, keep going.
And when you looked at it, I used to go to the mall on my off days, right? I used to put on sunglasses and I used to open up the magazines on the magazine shelf in the magazine shop. So I used to open them up to my page and I used to put them on the shelf and I used to stand there, take off my glasses, see if people would recognize me and then walk away.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing I ever did, right? I used to have so much fun with it because people would look at the magazine, they go, and then you just walk out and you laugh, and then they come running up to you after they bought the magazine. Hey, is this you? And you go, hey, it is. Hi, how you doing? Hey, nice to meet you. How you doing? Sign the autograph. There wasn't any place in the Staten Island Mall I could have went. Everybody knew me. I went to every shop. Everybody was hello. I had the best tracksuits. I had the best clothes. I had the best of everything, right? But I didn't abuse the privilege. I acknowledged all the people.
Yeah.
It was a great thing.
And I think that's one thing that's missing again with the new guard. And we're going to get to changing of the guard because obviously with the news of everything that's just happened over the past week, I want to get your opinion on that. But first off, I've been to a lot of shows in, house shows, Vancouver Island. I don't know if you remember, but I was at like a pretty memorable show for a house show. If you remember the briefcase getting tossed in from the crowd and Peg and Roman in the back of the neck a couple of years ago, I was front row for that match. Okay. And it always seems to be Vancouver Island. Jericho got into a fight there with the crowd. Something happened. They're not going back there anytime soon. But with the new guard and dealing with the fans, you hear about some of the guys who are really good. And it's maybe about 15 or 20% of them. The other 80% are just like told, like, leave me alone. Now, is this one of those things that it's the fault of social media because the fans seem to feel that they are more entitled to be connected with you? Or is it just how they've been brought up to do their media?
They're brought up wrong. And it's not right because you are a superstar and you are a celebrity. You're on TV. People know you, right? I still get stopped on the street. I can't tell you how many times I was out with my wife where people actually were eating and they came up to my table. Can you sign this? Not a hello. I get up. I excuse me from my family. Walk over, sign what they need. Thank you very much for being a fan. I greatly appreciate it. I was never rude, right? I think the rudest thing and the most disgusting thing I've seen, and it comes from the AEW, is when MJF gave the finger to little kids. Now, if you gave my kid the finger, you said, go fuck yourself, I'd crack your head open so fast I'd split you open. It wouldn't even be funny. You don't
Now,
disrespect my wife and you don't disrespect my kids. I don't care who you are.
mm-hmm. Now, is that just him taking it too far about his character, or is that him as a person?
From what you hear, it's him as a person. And, you can't be an asshole like that to the public. And the thing I used to say all the time, and this is the truth, and I want everybody to listen.
Mm.
Inside the four great walls of the WWE and AEW, you might be protected. But come on the street and do this in a back alley and talk to me like you talking to me in that building, and let me see what you got, because I will fucking level you.
Mm-hmm.
You're protected in there. Everybody who has a job of power is protected in the building. You're going to get fired. You're going to lose your push. You're going to do this. You're going to talk to me outside like that. That was the thing with WWE, right? Because everybody thought they were a friggin' stooge for the big man, right? And they could walk around and like make your life miserable. But as soon as you go home and you're a normal person, would you even think to talk to Vito LaGrasso like that on the street? No.
Like, it's kind of funny. Like, you and I have both been booked for an indie show in November, which we'll both be at. And I'm going down as a mouth, as a heel. And half the shit that I know that I'm going to say, I would never say to anyone that I didn't know, or even anyone I would know. And you just need to know, I believe personally, you need to know how to break character at the right times and leave the character at home. And I don't think a lot of these people, minus some of the top guys, i.e. Jericho, i.e. Cena, i.e. even Reigns currently, because I've heard he's an incredible person outside. But MJF and these guys, it just seems like they just want to live that character, and that's where they want to live their life.
They've only been there for a cup of coffee. They ain't even established themselves. They don't even got 10 years in the business. Mm-hmm. And because you were given a break, and you know what another thing is that irritates me so much? These guys think they made it in the business. I was fighting through Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Nash, Sting, Luger, DX, Undertaker. You name it, it was there. And if Vito LaGrasso had to fight through every one of them to get TV time, to be a world champion, to be a tag team champion, to be a hardcore champion, to main event on Nitro, to main event on Raw, to fight the top guys in the business, how many of those guys can do that in today's world? How many of the big boys would trust them?
Yeah.
You got to, and in WCW, I was a big guy. But you compare my size to the bigger guys that were there, right? You look at Chronic, you look at Kevin Nash, you look at Bam Bam Bigelow, you look at Luger, okay? Scott Steiner. When I got in the ring with those Goldberg, I got in the ring with those guys, I didn't look small, but I was big, but those guys were bigger, right? Yeah. You talk about hard hitting. And here I am suplexing Bam Bam Bigelow over the top of my head. Kevin Nash over the top of my head. Scott Steiner during his run, and I had that match before he fought Booker T, where he gave me everything in the book, and I made the comeback of a lifetime, right? And I gave him everything in my arsenal, and I'm throwing him around, right? Right, the night I wrestled Kevin Nash on Nitro, right, and I kicked out of his finish. The place was like, no, and he was like, that was suspense. What about the night Diamond Dallas Page beat Macho Man? He hit him with the stunner. There's a guy putting over another guy, passing the torch. Hogan putting over The Rock at WrestleMania, and nobody would have been mad if Hogan would have won.
Nope.
How about Terry Funk putting over Big Vito on Nitro for the hardcore title, handing me the belt, shaking my hand? That's class. That's what you're supposed to do in wrestling.
Now, you've said so much there, and it's funny, you mentioned WrestleMania. I actually had tickets to that WrestleMania, and I didn't get to go, which hurt me. Yeah. But let's go to quickly the changing of the guard, because you've been through two, technically. You've been through, actually three. You've been through the changing of the guard from ECW and the WCW getting bought out by Vince. And then now we have Vince leaving. And the new blood, who we kind of knew where all this was going to fall. Like, if you follow the business at all, you kind of knew the ins and outs of who was going to get placed where.
Right.
Are we going to see a product change in the next 6 months because the old man has finally taken his hands off the steering wheel and let someone that really did phenomenal work with NXT 2.0 or NXT Black and Gold? Are we going to see a grittier version of Raw and SmackDown? Or are we just going to see the train keep rolling down the tracks the exact same way it's been going for the last 10 years?
We are going to see a changing of the guard because there needs to be. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it I'm going to say positives, okay? Vince McMahon was probably the greatest announcer of our time. Nobody ever mentions him as an announcer. But
Okay.
when you watched, he was a great announcer. If he had to go behind the camera again and be an announcer and do those interviews, I'd be like, hell yeah, that's what I want to see.
Yep.
Right? Because that's what that's what you remember. Nobody talks about it. He was great at that. Him having a mind for the business and bringing WrestleMania and doing everything, he had a mind for it because he let his mind go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He brought in stars. He changed the direction of the business from when his father had it. Now, remember, I came in the 90s. The 80s, they were already changing into something different to where, okay, the 90s, Ico Pro, bodybuilders, beautiful bodies, that started. It started before with superstar Billy Graham, Ivan Putski, Tony Atlas, Hulk Hogan.
Yep. Savage?
Savage too. But you talk about the guys who were big, like monsters, right? So you talk about a change of guard. When you got to wrestle, now I'm going to give you a scenario. I wrestled Bill Eadie on the Independents hundreds of times. I wrestled Haku, right? You remember, people realize that was like the Super Machine and the Masked Superstar and Andre the Giant? Remember that tag team, that 3-man tag team?
I don't. That's a little back for me.
Okay, but Haku, Bill Eadie, and Andre the Giant. I wrestled 2 of those 3, and those guys were monsters, right? Those were men with men bodies.
Yeah.
I wrestled Ivan Koloff in the 90s, right? First time I felt man powers when he grabbed me like this, people. I just stopped and I would look and I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I just had a wow, right? You wrestled S.D. Jones. You wrestled Jim Powers. You wrestled Iron Mike Sharp. These were veteran guys who took the time to teach you. A guy by the name of the Honky Tonk Man. I wrestled him so many times. Hundreds. I became a student. When he talks about interviews, of my 2 favorite students, Big Vito and Perry Stadden, right? You talk about Jimmy Snooker, right? And in the 90s, I used to get so mad because I used to wrestle with all these guys, right? Because I was wrestling at in the WWF. These guys were leaving, and who would they wrestle with? They wrestled with Vito, right? On the indies.
Yeah.
So I said, yo, man, I says, why am I doing the job every week? They, Vito, you really don't understand, do you? I said, no, why don't you tell me something? Tell me, school me. He said, Vito, you're the only guy who makes them look like 20 years ago. And you're the only guy they bump for.
That's a massive compliment. That's a massive compliment.
That's a massive compliment, right? When you have George Steele come up to you in the arena in Elks Lodge, come over here. How you doing? Didn't Johnny Rods break you into business? Yes, sir. How come you're not wrestling full-time for Vince? I seen you on TV. How come you don't have a job? He says, I don't know what to say. Give me your stuff. What did you carry with you? Your picture with your name on the back Address, phone number, and everything. Give me a picture, 8 by 10. I'm going to hand this to Vince myself. That. For guys like Kamala, Coco Beware, who made phone calls to Jerry Lawler to get me in there. Owen Hart, Vito, call up Otto Wands. You got to get up at 5 in the morning. Send your tapes. Send all your stuff.
Yeah.
These are the guys who took the time to teach me. All these guys, right? Ted Petty, Cousin Luke, right? My very first wrestling shows, the Alpha and Sika, Ken Patera, the Iron Sheik, Johnny Rods, SD Jones. I know I'm forgetting somebody, but the size of these men.
Yeah.
Right? You just look at, I'm a kid, and I'm like, man, I'm going to get fucked up.
So you just opened that up for me. You just said, I'm going to get fucked up. You rambling these certain names off. Alpha Sika, not Iron Sheik, Kolov. Some of the stiffest workers in the business, but from what I've been told, these guys were stiff, but every shot was education. Everything in the ring, even though you're walking out of there feeling like you've been beaten by a bull. Like Alpha and Sika, everything I've heard about Alpha and Sika, they were the stiffest workers in the business. But they did it safely, like you mentioned earlier. Now, I gotta ask, how stiff were those shots?
I mean, it's not about being stiff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about guys being rough. It's about how tough are you?
Yeah.
Vito LaGrasso, I'll never say I was the toughest guy in pro wrestling. Never say that. Ever. Was I tough? Everybody knew it. I could back up what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was tough. I'm not saying I was no slouch. I knew my wrestling. I could take the best hits. I could take the best of the best with everybody. But they didn't do it with malice. They did it to teach you. And when you teach somebody, you can't show them the easy part of what it's like. You have to earn your stripes.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm wrestling Bill Eadie. You only know, okay, you ready. You know what I mean? You wrestle the rest of these name guys in the business. You know how many times I wrestled Sergeant Slaughter, and I go back and forth with Sergeant Slaughter. And Sergeant Slaughter was 6'6", and he's big, and he's like, and here I am coming up in the business, you know what I mean? And like you're wrestling these legends, you're wrestling them as a kid. But these guys took the time to teach me, and if they hit you, or they nailed you, you didn't say a word, you took it, and you're like, all right, let's go. You all right, Vito? Yep, I'm good, man. Yeah, Vito, you're going to be okay, kid. You're all right. You're all right. I never cried, never bitched, never moaned, never complained, never said you hit me too hard. I seen guys complain, and they used to get beat the shit up because you don't complain. You want to be a wrestler? You shut up, you take it, you learn your craft.
Yeah.
That's what's missing today, right? And a lot of guys get a bad name because they say, oh, he stiffed me. Oh, we're in a shoot. You have no idea what a shoot is. You have no idea what it's like to be in one of those things. Nothing.
And
right?
it doesn't seem like you hear, well, as much as you hear about Backstage, you don't hear about shoots anymore. Like back in the 90s, there was a lot of shooting going on, and that was before social media and the internet. And you heard about it too. So if you're hearing about it and there's no platform to hear about it, you know something's going on, right?
How many fights haven't you heard about that happened backstage where two guys didn't like each other, and they go out there and you know who's a tough guy? Who's a big tough guy, had heavy hands? Jim Duggan.
I believe it.
When he had a right hand, he hit you in the mouth. Like fuck, man. So I'll take another guy who you used to have brawls with. Everybody remember a guy named Buzz Sawyer.
Buzz Sawyer. I know. I'm not 100%. Go on.
Buzz Sawyer against Jim Duggan.
Okay.
You talk about hard-hitting guys.
Yep.
Okay. How about my first trip to Japan? Stan Hansen against Scott Norton. And I'm watching this in Japan with Kevin Sullivan. And it's the first time I'm actually watching Japanese wrestling. I'm there in Rivera, I got the jacket. Yeah, I know WWF, and I'm like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing this. Vito, you'll be okay. Johnny Rodz taught you how to wrestle. He says you got to learn how to fight. Don't let anybody kick your ass here. And that fucking put me on guard. Right?
That's insane.
Because what people don't realize, when you go to every different territory, there's different ways and styles of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know how to wrestle amateur when you go to Japan. Do you realize that Hulk Hogan probably is a great amateur wrestler, but he never showed it here in the States? But when you watch Hulk Hogan Muda and you watch Hulk Hogan Japanese tapes, that son of a bitch could wrestle at 6'6".
Yeah, he was no slouch.
Right?
Yeah.
No slouch. But you never heard of Hulk Hogan being a tough guy, right? How about you wrestling Animal and Hawk, Legion of Doom in the 90s? There's Vito wrestling, and the guy who I was wrestling with when we had this new match, Tony Gurria, comes up to me, and I had been there at TVs, and he said, all right, kid, you're going to take the finish. I'm not taking the finish. I looked at him, Tony, and Animal and Hawk, we just looked like this. He's like, Vito, are you okay? Yes, sir. You no problems? Nope. Know what we want? Yep. So, that guy, wow. On the next set of TVs, who did they feed him to? The Samoan SWAT team. Ripped his friggin' singlet, beat the living shit out of him. And I said, see, jackass, you should have just took the finish.
Yeah, just shut your mouth and work.
Third TV, he was the guy who was on with The Undertaker, and they burned his boots.
Oh
I don't think they paid him. Yeah, they burned the bottom of his boots. Teach him a lesson.
All right, let's get to. I do have a question. I want to get, because you've gone over a couple of decades here, and obviously the mind is fresh. And I've not seen anyone ask you this question. Give me your 3 favorite matches that you ever worked. It doesn't have to be TV. It doesn't have to be on the big stage. Just give me 3 matches that you worked, who you worked with, and why.
My second WWF match against Bret Hart.
Okay.
Because he came up to me after the first time I wrestled him, and he was a little stiff with me. And he came and apologized to me. And he says, hey, come over here. I said, yes. He says, I apologize for being a little rough with you. I asked to work with you today. I says, you didn't have to apologize. I said, I'm just trying to be one of you guys. He says, you are one of us. He says, come on, we're going to wrestle today. And I says, okay. Can I do this? He says, I can let you do some stuff, because back then you didn't get offense. I was probably one of the few guys that got offense. Mm-hmm. And he reckoned me. I wrestled Bret Hart 4 times. And when you have Bret Hart coming over to you as a pro, and you're a young kid in the business, that most memorable night.
Yeah.
My other great matches with Rob Van Dam in the ECW arena. If I would have beat him that night, the place would have became unglued. Probably one of the best matches you see in ECW. Then probably my all-time favorite, the night I beat Terry Funk for the Hardcore title.
It's got to be up there. It's got to be. And
he handed me the belt and shook my hand, which I didn't expect. Mm. That's pro. Huge. I've been in the ring. I've been in the ring with Flair. I've been in the ring with Hogan. I've been in the ring with a lot of the greats. I'm very honored and privileged to have wrestled all of those Hall of Famers. And thank you for taking the time to teach me. If they didn't take the time to teach me, I would have never made nothing of my career. Mm-hmm. And I always thank them. And even the guys who they said were, and I get upset when they say it, oh, your job. A guy like Jim Powers and S.D. Jones and Cousin Luke and Ted Petty, I know I'm missing a few names, but those are the guys who were workers, and they work with me on independent shows, and they took the time to teach me. Mm-hmm. Honky Tonk Man, I can never repay him making me work with him and teach. Nah, Skull, got to do this. Hey, Skull, here. You don't. Those are things you don't forget.
Yeah.
Probably the most Memorable locker room time is I showed up for an independent show, and Honky Tonk Man, Greg Valentine, Haku. I mean, all of them is Bill Eadie. Um, there were a bunch of them sitting there. I come walking in with my bag, and I was very respectful. So I walk up to him. I said, "Look at you guys," and they all stop and they look. This, what's the matter, Vito? I said, "Listen, I'm trying to get my big break in the business, and you guys are still hanging around. When are you guys retiring?" Right? So they all start laughing. So I asked them, I said, "Guys, you mind if I sit with you?" "What? You want to sit with us? Come on over here, Vito. Come on." They got up, gave me a chair. I sat with them.
Yeah.
One of the greatest times I ever had just being a pro is when those guys, "Come on over here, Vito. Get over here. Sit over here. How you doing? You're looking good, man." That's the business.
Yeah.
That's the business.
So talk to me. You said something there too. Talk to me about being a pro. Because obviously when you go, it doesn't matter if it's independence or the big shows or wherever you are, Japan, walking into that locker room for the first time, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's an indie show or if you're walking into ECW pay-per-view or Monday Night Raw. When you walk into that locker room, is it like a big family? Like I've seen it from like a employee section standing in the corner, but is everyone like, does everybody exchange phone numbers? You got everyone's number on speed dial, or is it very restricted? Like they make it seem like when it was the 90s, BSK over in one corner, the Click over in another corner, and guys kind of just kept to themselves and who their tight group was. Like, is it just in the lunch area where everyone actually kind of intermingles, or how's it work?
When you're on the road and you work for a company, that's your family. That's your family, no matter what. The most memorable time I can remember in being in a dressing room was in the WWF in 1991. Hulk Hogan is champion. There's about 50 guys sitting by the monitor, walking here. Here comes Hulk Hogan. I look over. Oh my God, it's Hulk Hogan. He came over and shook everybody's hand down that line. "How you doing, brother? How's everything? How's everything?" First time you learn about respect. They teach you when you go into a dressing room, you shake everybody's hand. You show respect.
Mm-hmm.
I still do it today. Guys, I shake from the ring crew to the hot dog lady. Everybody, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. My name is Vito. How are you?" You shake everybody's hand in that place.
Mm-hmm.
That shows that you were brought up the right way. Okay? Doesn't matter how big of a star you are, who you are. If I could do it, you could do it.
Yeah.
And I've been around more dressing rooms than just about anybody, right? Just like with all the greats. And when you see them and you shake everybody's hand, it's a respect thing.
Yes.
And the respect of the business, I don't think is upkept like it used to be. You remember guys who were not accepted in the dressing room changing the hallway. Well, when you did TVs for the WWF, you changed in the hallway. You weren't accepted in the dressing room. I was lucky. I walked in the dressing room. "Who broke you in, kid?" "Johnny Rods." "Come right over here and sit over here. You're one of Johnny's boys."
Mm-hmm.
Because of who broke me in, they knew I knew the right way and how to act.
Yeah.
Shut up. Mind your business. Watch. "How's it going, Baldy? You doing okay today?" "I'm doing good. Thank you very much." You know, everybody used to laugh at me back then, but they just say, "Vito," he says, "you're the only guy in here who's reading the Bible." Right? So they said, "Vito, why'd you used to read the Bible?" I said, "Well, I wasn't a religious guy, but I was like, okay, let me bring this Bible with me." I was just like a superstitious thing.
Mm-hmm.
Figured if I sat there and read the Bible, the guys would respect the fact that I'm serious about the game. I go do my thing. I wouldn't get in any trouble, right? You don't act a fool. You sit there, you're reading your Bible, reading your stuff, going about. And the guys respected that. They liked that. They said, "That kid's okay." When you came out of your little shell and you had a little personality because you felt comfortable, because they let you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
The Nasty Boys, when they were there, Hey, kid, you want to see the back cave? I said, the back cave? What's the back cave? They put their ass on the friggin' camera for the photographer. Yeah, that's the back cave, kid. And I'm looking, I was like, oh my God. You know?
That's insane. I've heard stories about the Nasty Boys before, so doesn't surprise me.
The famous Ric Flair shaving the eyebrow thing going overseas, right? Ric Flair's going to be mayor. He's going for political office. They shave his eyebrow. He's fucking pissed. Brian Knobs comes off. I can't believe it. Look at this, brother. They got Flair, and then they got me. He shaved his own eyebrow so he wouldn't get busted.
No, he didn't. That's ballsy. That's ballsy. I love that. I love that.
Right? The famous ponytail with Michael Hayes when X-Pac cut his ponytail, right? He took a chance.
I would have loved to see Michael Hayes' reaction the second he looked in the mirror. Like that the fly on the wall thing for that one.
But there are things that you see that we don't talk about, and things you just, the business is the business, the boys are the boys.
Yeah.
And the one thing I could tell you, and one thing my wife today knows about Vito LaGrasso, when it comes to the divas, the girls in the dressing room, the ladies who work in the ring, they all say one thing about me, and I'm very proud of. My mother was alive. She would say, she'd be proud, that Vito always acted like a gentleman. And, hey, did I date around? Did I have my share of women? Did I do my thing? Yes. But I never treated anybody that way.
Yeah.
Right? But when you have all the ladies in wrestling, all the famous ones, and they come up and hug you and kiss Vito, I can't believe it. You're here. How are you doing? Good to see you. You're always so nice. You're always cool. I mean, I could hang out with them girls and they could be all naked. It wouldn't be nothing I'd want to do, but just hang out with the chicks. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was going to get some but they felt comfortable to be themselves. And they always said that about me. And I think that's one of my more prouder things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a gentleman and being a man in the business. Those divas, those wrestlers, those ladies, they were considered your sisters because that's the way I was taught.
Of course.
Would you have liked to would you have liked to dated a few of them? Hey, of course you would.
You came through the generation of some of like the best female talent when it came to the attractive side of things compared to what we have now. Like we've got some very attractive women that are very, very athletic and talented when it comes to professional wrestling. But back in the day, the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, some of the greatest, most attractive women went through that locker room. So for you to say that says a lot about you.
What was the hottest thing during the Nitro Wars? The Nitro Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Beautiful. They were all beautiful. My first day on the job, Denver, Colorado. Get there, go down to the gym. There's the Nitro Girls. Every single one of them. You lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Right. So you get to see them without makeup. You get to see them working out and training. And you say, all right, this is cool, man. Get in there, introduce yourself, talk. The most gentleman thing I think I did in WCW is I was doing an angle with Dallas Page and his wife. And it was a thing where it used to be the Mamalukes coming around and being, how we were goofball Italians. And I said, all right, Vito, you gotta grab her ass and do this stuff, right? So I looked at Dallas and I looked at his wife. I said, is this okay with you? Do I have permission to do this? Right? So he said, Vito, you're good. And she told me, she said, Vito, grab away. Go ahead. But the fact that I did that.
Yeah.
Right? Cool stuff. How many people would do that today? I don't know. But that's the kind of respect I had for the ladies and their men. I was friends with Mark Merrow and Sable. Right? Stacy Keibler, right? when we did a thing with Stacy Keebler, and we had a kiss during the spot in the match, right? So I know you said Stacy Keebler, Tori Wilson, right? Your girls there. So here we are. You come to the spot. I'm up on the rope. She gets up. So I go to kiss her, right? So I told her, I said, listen, I said, do they want me to kiss you? Is that okay? She goes, yeah, Vito. She says, okay, okay. I said, okay. So there she is. I'm kissing her. She gives me tongue. And I'm like, I'm doing all this, right? So it was probably the greatest spot of all time because, like, here I am not thinking I'm going to get some, and I got some, and then, like, we both laughed afterwards, and we just looked at each other. I said, yeah, that was kind of cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. So guys came up, Vito, you kissed Stacy Keebler. How was it? I said, guys, kayfabe, brother, kayfabe.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, man. All right, man. Listen, so we've gone some time here. You've given us some incredible insight, especially your career. Just the backstory of the business, some of the people that you've worked with. I've got one more question, and then I've just got a quick word association. I like doing it.
Okay.
I'll just ramble off some names, and first thing that comes to mind. But my last question is: you have met literally my generation's, the generation just before me, and the new generation's list of people.
Right.
Who are you still talking to? Who do you still keep in touch with? Who do you still like go for a beer with? Like, the business is massive. It's wide. You're down in Florida now. So like literally every professional wrestler pretty much lives in Florida at this point. So who are you still shooting the shit with?
When I go to shows and I see the old boys, I'll come over and give a hug. Man, Vito, it's good to see you. I see Shane Douglas. I've seen him quite a few times. We always sit and we have a good time. Johnny the Bull, I still talk to. My tag team partner.
Mm-hmm.
Nunzio, my tag team partner, I still talk to. Angel of the Baldies, I still talk to. There are a few other guys, but when you talk about Brian Clark, I still talk to. Ernest Miller. But when you talk about, guys who you talk to, it's not about who you talk to. It's about your friendship. Because your friendship, I don't have to speak to you every day, but if I do talk to you, we're going to be on the phone for an hour because we keep up with each other and we know what's going on social media. And we could pick up a conversation like it was yesterday. Just like my other tag team partner, Chuck Smith, when we did the Germans, right? I haven't seen him in a long time. When we pick up on the phone, we're on there talking and shooting and catching up. And that's the biggest thing. I think it's not the constant phone calls, but when you do talk to the guys,
yeah,
the love and respect that you have for each other that maybe you didn't know existed, but you talk now and you say, and they all say the same thing, and everybody can say what they want. That Vito was all right. He always looked out for the boys.
Good, man. That's amazing. That's amazing, man. Like it's an attest to character, and it just shows like how you were brought up and how like the respect you earned by the boys. Kind of, it's a long lasting one. I just had one other question that just popped into my head. When it comes to, like, you mentioned the guys who kind of broke you, trained you, got you into the business, is there anyone that you kind of worked with that has come into the business that can say, you know what, like Vito was one of those ones that really kind of pushed me in the right direction?
Guys, I'm going to say this, and this is the God's honest truth. I was probably the most hated wrestler ever step in the squared circle. And on the Northeast, I was probably one of the most feared and hated guys to ever step in, ring, and go to shows. The reason was I took wrestling so seriously. I was not into cliques. I wasn't into going out with the boys. I was into training. I was into practicing. I wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
When they talk about Vito back then, They more than one occasion, maybe hundreds, if not thousands. Vito, if I would have listened to you back then, my career would have been different. Vito, thank you for taking the time to train me and teach me.
Mm-hmm.
Vito, I should have listened to you because I went and did everything that these guys wanted to do, but I was the only one who wanted to do what it took.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go to these places and I see the old guys, or there's a show coming up and all those guys, man, Vito, I remember they still talk about stories about me going to different places. Iron Mike Sharp School. I was wrestling with Iron Mike Sharp, and I wrestled with a Mike Sharp with Tommy Jeanette and Johnny Rods on the Independence in the Northeast. Hey, Mike, you mind if I come to your school and I could work out? I said, yeah, Vito, come on down. I walk in there. I was so cocky. So it was a guy named Mike Moraldo. I think Crowbar was in there. Mike Bucci was in there. A few other guys. I walk in there. Give me your best 10 guys. They go, what? I said, give me your best 10 guys. 10 guys came up on a friggin' ring. I said, okay, guys, let's go. I went through all 10. I said, all right, I'm done. They still talk about that today. The old training regimen that I did, something called the Pepsi Challenge. They still talk about it today. Guys who I might have been rough with, but it wasn't being rough. It was teaching him, because everybody forgets that I wasn't taught, and I didn't wrestle guys my own caliber. I wrestled the WWF guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people forget. So I was already past that, goofy, J-Bo, dummy, uneducated stuff. But here I am I'm wrestling the pros.
Yeah.
So it was different for me. I was different than everybody else. And everybody took it as me being a jerk off, but it wasn't. I was just different because I was trained to be a pro.
Yeah.
The one time we'll go from the Johnny Rod school, I went with about 4 or 5 guys, and they were like, oh man, Vito's on the trip. Oh, we got to drive with him. Oh, it's going to be fucked up. So we get in the car. All right, guys, let's go. Let's play the name game. They were like, what? Yeah, this is what you do on a trip. You have a good time, right? So they're having a good time, and they're fucking saying, Vito's human. Hey, look at this. And he's even eating real food. What the fuck? So it was time to go home. And guys had to drive me home. I said, all right, guys, you can come to my house to eat. If I told you 5 heads turned around and they dropped their bed and they said, what? I said, yeah, we're going home. I said, you guys can come to my house to eat. I got food already made for you. We're just going to go home, will you? He says, are you serious? I said, yeah, why? I said, guys, we're not in wrestling school no more. We're on the road. This is how you act on the road.
Yeah.
So
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. Quick word association. I'm going to ramble off a couple.
Go ahead.
Literally the first thing that comes to mind, and feel free if you want to shoot. You got a opinion on them. It's up to you. Okay. Let's start with an easy one. Vince Russo.
He has been my friend for 30 plus years. I helped break him into business. He helped get me signed to WCW, gave me an opportunity to showcase my talents. He wrote some good stuff for me. I'm still friends with him today, even though we don't talk. And you say, who do you talk to? Vince Russo is one of those guys who's busy. He's got his things happening, but he's probably one of my best friends in the world.
Nice. All right. Taker. Mark Calloway.
I wrestled him in Nassau Coliseum, 1992. Treated me really good. And when I got to be in the WWE and I was signed, they were short druids. So they says, man, we're short druids. We don't have enough guys here. I said, I'll do it. The agents like, Vito, you want to be a druid? I said, are you kidding me? I said, give me the damn thing. I said, it's the greatest entrance in history. I said, but I want to be first, so I'm the last guy he sees before he turns around. They all laughed, but wrestling him and being out there during his entrance,
yeah,
that was cool.
That's awesome.
That was cool. So, I mean, I got nothing bad to say about him. He upheld the law. He was old school wrestling. Everything he said in his Hall of Fame speech was the truth. He didn't bullshit. You had to put the work in. And both of us came up during the same time. So when he spoke, I knew exactly what he meant.
All right. Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan. I am probably one of the few guys who ever calls him Terry. And I could stop. He's one of those guys who I could stop and have a conversation. I don't have to see him. But I could stop and have a 2-hour conversation with him, talk about life, talk about this, that, the other thing. And he always treated me with respect. Hulk Hogan and I share a very specific moment because the night of the Russo bashing with Hogan, Hulk and I was in the Baltimore arena and I had a dressing room to myself. So Hogan comes in, hey brother, mind if I share your room? I said, Hulk, come on in, man. I got plenty of room. It was just me and him in the dressing room. He comes back and I looked at him. I said, Hulk, are you okay? He says, yeah, brother. So I'm just gonna go home. I was just like, I just was shocked because here's my buddy Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
There's my buddy Vince Russo. And they just had a big fight. And I go out there and I'm like, I said, Vince, what'd you do? And you all know the story.
Yeah, yeah. I just got goosebumps being that you were the middle guy, like kind of there.
Yeah.
And I remember that perfectly. So like, I'm like, oh, I might have to have you just for more of that.
Tell you something. I have to say that night, more of the boys came up to me than anything and said, Vito, what the hell just happened? And then when I went to go talk to Russo, and I said, Vin, I said, what the fuck did you do? You just fucking torched Hulk Hogan. And then he told me what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to listen to his size being a boss and then him being Hulk Hogan. But I was friends and I was in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was probably a tough night for me. It was a tough night for me. I didn't like to see him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get that.
Part of history, baby. Part of history.
Fair enough. Final two. Paul Levesque, Triple H.
Triple H, he made it in the business. Great politician. You look where he sits today. He had a great, illustrious career. He has a wonderful family with 3 daughters. He married, Stephanie. Hopefully he could right the ship in the WWE. And hopefully down the road we could do business.
Fair enough. You took my last question. We'll get to that. Final one, Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon. When I grew up, I watched you and I idolized you because of your announcing. I said, man, he's the guy that's the guy I wanted to watch. When I used to do enhancement talents and I used to go up to the WWF in Titan Towers, and I used to go up there because I was doing charity work, and a lot of people know I did a lot of charity work, and the WWF at the time would give me stuff to hand out for charities. So I remember seeing him a couple times when he walked in the hallways. He would look at me and then he'd just keep going. And then when I see him at TVs back in the day, he would always acknowledge me and say hello. When I had the opportunity to work for him full time, and then I worked closely with him during the dress era, and anytime I had a question, or anytime I'd sit with him and talk with him, it was a great talk and a great thing because I was a student of the game and listening to him talk. One thing I respected about Vince McMahon is, and one thing I always felt myself, if the boss can do it, you could do it. If the boss can go out and get his head cracked open, you can go get your head cracked open. If you can take a garbage can, the boss can take a garbage can. You know what I mean? And he showed that whatever he did for the business, you could do it too. It wasn't like, well, I did it. Why can't you do it? And what are you supposed to say? He led by example.
Yeah.
He knew everybody by their name. He had something for everybody. He knew if you had it. He knew if you didn't, right? He used to watch me practice every TV and everything when I was Nunzio's partner. And I would go in and practice because I was bodyguard. And I would work out there after everybody's out of the ring. He used to watch me go back and forth and do my thing. And, we would talk. And me and Nunzio used to put our matches together. I'd say, Vince, what do you want? How do you want this? He said, Vito, I'd like this and I'd like that. I would go to him. Going to him during the dress thing, I work every night. I'd say goodnight to him, go on, do my thing. The one thing about Vince McMahon that I wish that could have been better, his legacy and the way he left the business. no matter what he ever did, and you look at the end product now, the things he could have done to embrace the millions of dollars he had to help the industry grow, to take care of the boys who helped make him the money. The way he could have finished his career as the greatest owner in sports history. I'm talking baseball, football, basketball, anything.
Yeah.
And you say he could have been that. For him to end on this note in a scandal is very sad, because his legacy shouldn't be that, shouldn't be tarnished. It should be embraced.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the saddest part is out of everything. And no matter what business there was going on, whether it be legal, it be royalties, it be push, it be this and that, Vince McMahon might have had a say, but he didn't know everything that was going on in his house, because it was people under him that were making those decisions for him.
Yeah.
He didn't know everything. So at the end of the day, you look at the grand scheme of things, and he's 76 years old. He has $1 billion, and life is not in the sunset for him. He faces some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wish him nothing but the best. I hope that if he is listening and everything is there is no hard feelings towards anything. And if I could ever go back to the WWE to make things right and work together to make the business what it used to be, I'd be open to doing this, because that's the business I remember. And that's the business that you taught me also. But thank you always for the opportunity. And let's hope that everything works out to where everything is settled in your life as a human being.
Always a class act, like you have shown this entire interview, and as you have clearly stated through your entire career, which I think that is like probably the best way to end it. So Vito, I am going to let you take the floor and let us know what you're doing, where we can find you, what you've got planned, and do we have a potential return in the future?
Well, guys, as you know, I have been wrestling, and I just started wrestling again. And I've been taking care of Miss Noel because she's been having some health issues. She's a little bit not feeling well right now. So I backed off the wrestling, backed off the bookings, and backed off going out. But our podcasts, we changed our forum. We do the TikToks, we do the Twitch. We're not going to be on Patreon. We're on Twitter at the Big Vito Brand, Facebook at the Big Vito Brand, TikTok at the Big Vito Brand, the Big V Mafia. So guys, subscribe and help us out and help us grow. I know this young man right here, an entrepreneur of this business, is going to help me get millions and millions of people to follow me. But all in all, you know, your well wishes to my wife, I greatly appreciate. All you people out there showing me the love on TikTok, I greatly appreciate it. And thank you very much for acknowledging me in this great way. Do I want to come back and wrestle? I would like to, but only for the right situation. Would I like to go back to the big time? Absolutely. But I don't want to go on TV just for a one and done. I would like to make it something where I could say, I'm finishing my career on my note. I don't have to win. I don't have to lose. But I like to finish in a dignified manner.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I have to do other things in life. And remember, guys, real life comes first. Wrestling is never first. I think that's a lesson everybody learns. Take care of your family, you know, because that's who you have when you finish wrestling, right? And have a plan B. And how many people have a plan B out there? Not many. And when people say, Vito, I'm going to be a wrestler, I'm going to do this. Well, do you have a college education? No. Do you have a career? No. Do you have a full-time job? No. Well, go get one of those three things and then go and be a pro wrestler, because not everybody makes it. I was supposed to be a pro basketball player. That didn't work out. I tried out for the Olympic baseball team. That didn't work out. I was going to play semi-pro football. That didn't work out. I could have boxed. That didn't work out. I became a pro wrestler. And I had to learn on the fly to have a plan B. There's life after wrestling. So if everybody listening, you know, Yes to AEW, yes to WWE, yes to Impact, yes to the NWA. Yes, if I can come back and do a prominent role and even wrestle Skull Von Crush, I'd do it.
That's brilliant. Guys, this has been Mr. Tesh on the Straight Shoot Wrestling Podcast with Big Vito LaGrasso. Vito, once again, thank you to yourself. My best wishes, and thank you to Noel for getting this all set up. I wish you nothing but the best, and look forward to having you on here again, because I think we didn't cover everything, and we've got a lot more to talk about.
It's awesome. Have a great day, guys. Peace.
Take care.